Hello everyone, hope you're doing great. So today I'm here to record the video for my project for this Fabric Hackathon Global AI Hack. So there were three categories in this project. First category was, if I go down, it was like for real world AI application built with Fabric plus Azure OpenAI. And then last but not the least, a very interesting feature that came out from Fabric recently, like best use of Copilot for Microsoft Fabric. So I worked on economic impact project along with my wife Urvashi Mehta on this project. But I will walk you through the project, what we have built, and how it looks like it. Okay, now so Copilot. Now Copilot came out, so there was a lot of buzz around how to use it or not. So first, the prerequisite for this project. So what we did was I signed up for Microsoft 365 E5 subscription for a trial version. Then we got a Fabric trial. Along with that, now we created a workspace in Fabric, but since Copilot cannot be used with that workspace, we need to also start a Fabric capacity. So we enrolled for a trial version of Azure, which gives around 200 credits. Now, when we enroll this, so we enrolled in F64 capacity, and the way we worked it, the duration of time we were using the Fabric, we were building it up, and the moment we stopped using it, we paused the capacity. So that way we were not incurring additional charges. But yes, we were starting with F64 for this version. So if I look at the Azure resources, so we have got a Fabric F64 capacity for Fabric work. Then we also wanted to test Copilot for Data Factory. So for Copilot for Data Factory, we had Copilot SQL. So this is an SQL server on which we have a Copilot SQL database in which we are doing what we are doing is we are uploading a table from one of the Fabric tables, sorry, a Lakehouse tables to this SQL server. So during the course of this project, I will walk you through the use of Copilot for data engineering, Copilot for data science, Copilot for Power BI, and last but not the least, Copilot for Data Factory. So let's jump right into it. Now, if I go to the Microsoft Fabric, we click on this icon, we go to what I want to show you is that experience of data engineering. So if I go to data engineering, sorry, I want to first cover the workspaces. So if I go to workspace where we have hosted the project as Fabric Copilot Workspace. So when I click this workspace, so these are the resources that we have. So this is the notebook that we created, like data engineering, economic data analysis. Then we created a data flow Gen 2, like data flow Copilot Lakehouse to SQLDB, the pipeline, which we will show you now. And then data engineering, economic data analysis is the model that we built. Now, after that, we have got the Power BI report as well. So let me go to the Lakehouse now. So this is the economic data lakehouse that we have created in this project. Now, first, what is the source of our data? So we got the data from one of the Kaggle trending data sets that we found for economic data analysis. So as part of the data set, there were three files: companies, economic data, and purchase. Now, this was in an Excel format. So when we get this data, what we did was it had this reported date time, company ID, product category, quantity, revenue. So we added these additional columns: quarter and year, revenue date, quarter, and year. So what we wanted to do was that this is the date. So we wanted to identify what is a quarter and year for this. And based on the quarter and year for this, we built a column quarter and year. So this is the column we will use. Now I will show why we built this column. There is another table for economic activity. So if you look at, so we have the quarter and date over here. During that quarter, what was the unemployment rate? What was the GDP value? What was the CPI? What were the mortgage rates? So basically, we have quarterly economic indicator data using which we can check what is the sales of the companies. Now, when we look at the sales of the company, it's on a reported date. So basically, on a reported date, there is a company ID which takes us to a company table, then product category for which we have certain revenue. So we wanted to combine them into a quarterly fashion. So therefore, we needed this column quarter and year. So basically, we will do quarterly analysis based on the economic impacts and see what data or inferences we can derive from the data. So let's dive right into it. If I go back to it, now I just want to show the companies table as well. So basically we have got 10 companies over here. So all these 10 companies are shown like what is a company ID, company name, location, company type, and employees. So first thing what we did was that we uploaded these three CSV to the files section. So if I right click here, we do upload and we do upload files. So this way we were able to upload the tables. Then we went to each individually and loaded to the tables as new tables. So we have all the three tables loaded as well. So companies, economic data, and purchase. So company sales, we will walk you when we are creating the notebook, how this table is created. So right now, if I look at it right now, so we have got three files. For all these three files, we have got three tables. Okay, now let's continue. So if I go to this notebook, so if I will open existing notebook, so this is the notebook that has been used on this data set. Now, if you look at this notebook, so here is the Copilot, like we spin up a Copilot F64 capacity, then we attach that capacity to our workspace so that this workspace can use the Copilot features. So the moment we have the Copilot, we can click here and it comes up with a very nice prompt. Like it gives you various options like load data from my lakehouse into a data frame, generate insights from data, suggest visualization. So what we did was once the moment you load it up, it also puts the code in one of the cells. So this is the code which installs required packages for the Copilot. Now what that it does is if we go down, it gives you various usages. So one command is percentage chat, percentage code, percentage describe, add comments, fix errors, translate. There are various other commands. So maybe like once developers are running it, they can go through it. But the most used command for by us in this project was, if I go up, sorry, down. So it's percentage code to generate code to work with or visualize the data. And the second is percentage fix errors to fix the errors. We use sometimes percentage describe, but not very often. So now, okay, let's continue with it. So if you see first command, what I gave was loaded companies into a data frame. So if you see, it generated the code to load this into a data frame. Now we go down, so we have loaded, next we are using the percentage code. So this time we are not using from the chat window, we are using from the cells. We are putting percentage code, load economic data into a data frame. So we found there were two ways, like a spark.table, and like basically it's doing the same thing, but we just added in two different type of data frames. So we can ignore DF for now. It's DF economic data that we are going to use beyond. Now, similarly, we are using the purchase table. So if you see percentage code, so load purchase into data frame. So, okay, now we have got all the three tables loaded into our data frames. Next. So we wanted to see how we can see what is a mortgage rate based on the quarters. So what we did was we did percentage code, then we gave it a prompt like display graphical trend of mortgage rate 30 years based on quarter and year, order by year and quarter. So now if you see, it gives us this very nice code. Now, once we look into it, we see, okay, the mortgage rate was continuously decreasing, and in Q1 it began to increase, like in Q2 it was high, and then Q3 it again came down. So this is one of the good trends that we see. Now we also wanted to see what is the trend of CPI based on quarter and year. So basically, what is a quarterly trend for CPI? Now it again gave us this code. Now when we see, so we see that CPI decreased from Q1 to Q2 in 2020, but beyond that, it has been on an increasing trend. So means the cost of goods like is already continuously increasing. Now let's continue. So then we also wanted to analyze what is the trend for unemployment rate based on quarter and year. So let's see. So then in Q1 in 2020, the unemployment rate was like you can say it's a base, then it went up like Q2, then it began to drop down gradually. Next, we wanted to see what is the GDP trend. So quarterly GDP trend, if you see from Q1 to Q2, it came down, and from Q2, it's going up. So basically, if you see, we have done analysis for the data, like quarterly, we have seen what is the GDP increase, or what was the trend for unemployment rate, what was the trend for CPI. Now, this is all done using Copilot. Now, if we go down, we also try to identify what is the relation between GDP value and unemployment rate. So maybe like if the unemployment rate is going down, what's the impact on GDP? So we try to identify the correlation, and we are getting a correlation of minus 0.79. Now, next. We just want to see the graphical trend between GDP value and employment rate. So it was not giving very correct answers. So what I need to do was I had to give it more specific. So I added like GDP value is X and unemployment rate is Y and order by GDP value. So it gives a nice graph which shows that, okay, with increase in GDP, the unemployment rate was decreasing. But when GDP was hitting at the certain level, 21,500, the unemployment rate again began to increase. And then it started to decrease again. So maybe at this point, there might be certain reasons that companies might be taking cost cutting measures to like boost their bottom line. Or maybe there might be some other reasons, but it shows that with increase in GDP, there was a point when there was an increase in unemployment rate, and then it starts to come down. Now, if we continue, now this is the CPI trend based on GDP values. So if you see, GDP is continuously increasing, but so do the CPI as well. Like there was a brief period of time when CPI came down, but then it again started with its upward trend. Now, okay, next. So we know what were the mortgage rates for 7 quarters. So we wanted to predict what is the mortgage rate for next 3 quarters. So we wanted to create a model. So we gave it a nice prompt like percentage code, create a model to predict mortgage rates for future quarter and year based on the current data. So it created a linear regression model. And then if you see, so basically for this prediction, it used a linear regression model. It trained it. Now it predicted the mortgages for the next 3 quarters, Q3, Q4, and Q1. So we see in Q3, the mortgage will be around 2.97, then it will come down to 2.916, and then 2.862. And then we also wanted to show the above predictions with the current data. So we can see in the form of a graph. So this is the current mortgages. So we expect the mortgage rates to go up and then gradually come down in the next 2 quarters. So it's a pretty nice machine learning model that has been built here. Now, okay, so we have done our analysis for economic data. Now, okay, now we have economic data, we have got purchases data. So what we next wanted to do was combine economic data that was on quarterly basis with the purchases table on the quarterly basis and see, okay, what were the sales? So initially it didn't give very good results, but then I started to give it a very more like granular, like step by step things. So like if you see here, we are saying percentage code. First, we are saying create a table by joining economic data and purchases table. Then we are saying join on what column. So we are saying join them on columns quarter in year, quarter year. Then we are saying to sum the revenue based on product category. And then we are saying table should have columns, quarter, year, quarter, company ID, product category. So basically what we have defined is which tables to join based on which columns, and come up with a revenue based on which product category, and what are the final columns table should have. So basically, we have given them step by instructions of what all things it needs, and then it generated a very nice code for us. So if you see, it says df join, then it joined with one of the tables to another table purchase, and then it came up with this. So, okay, now we see an error, economic data. It gives us economic data is not defined. So we identified, okay, we are using a data frame with a different name above. We should use the data frame with the same name. So we changed this to df economic data and purchases to df purchase. So basically, these are the data frames in which these tables were loaded. So once we did this, it again gave us errors that columns were ambiguously defined. So what we did here is that we did percentage fixed errors and after that, we gave it a nice statement that remove duplicate columns in join to fix further errors. So what happened was it removed that duplicate. So it replaced these by brackets, if you see. So if you see here, it was with dot, now it was replaced by brackets. And now the code works perfectly fine. So for every quarter, we were able to see product category and what is the revenue, and we had the company ID. So this solves our problem. Now let's continue. Okay. So now we have got df underscore new table. So we have got product category revenue on the basis of each quarter, and we have a company ID, but we don't have a company name in this table. So then we did was percentage code. We added a new column, like we said, like add a new column in df new table as company name with company name from companies table based on company ID. So it added this code. So if you see, it renamed the column name company name to new company name. So which was not correct, but it did that way. So maybe like we wanted as a new table, so it added a new company there, a new column because I said add a new column, so maybe added a new column name, but that's fine. Then we gave it a further command, remove column company type in company location, because these were the additional columns that were added along with that. So it removed those columns from the table with company name. Now, once we are there, if you see, we have dropped those columns. Now, if I continue, when I see again, it again shows new column name as the company name. So we wanted this table column to be as company name. So if I continue, so we're saying rename new column name as company name in df new table with company. So basically we have said which column has to be renamed in which data frame and with which name. Sorry, sorry, I'm just speaking it wrong. So it says rename new column name as company name in df new table with company name. So it did the rename here. Now when we are saying this is the perfect table that we really need for us. Okay, let's continue. Now we are saying save this table, and this is where the company sales table, which you are seeing in the initial in the lake house, is coming in. So we are saving df new table with company name as table company sales. So this is where the table has been saved. Okay, now we are saying load company sales into data frame and show. So we are loading it now. Now we are printing it as well. Now we are saying calculate the total revenue for each company in order by total revenue, and rename sum of the revenue, the column that generates to total revenue. So it gives us this table. So it helps us to identify which is the company having top revenue and which is the company which is having the least revenue. Now it was showing with E7, so I tried to change it with total revenues in full numbers, but then I continued with it. Like we understand how the numbers are coming. Now we try to ask few questions based on the data. So I'm saying based on above, which is the company having top revenue? So it gave us this code and it identified, okay, Davis Group is having the top revenue. Now, okay, so we know now Davis Group is having top revenue, which we also try to identify what is the top selling product category for Davis Group. So top selling product category Davis Group, we had this code. So it says, okay, home improvement is the category where Davis Group has the maximum sales. Now, we also try to identify what is the top selling product category from company sales, like what is the overall top selling product category. So we identified, okay, home and kitchen is the top selling product category. Now, then we also tried to find which company has the top selling product category as home and kitchen. So this identifies, okay, Everett Klein is the company which has this home and kitchen as a top category. So if you see, we have used Copilot for data engineering over here. We did the analysis of the data for companies table. Then we did the analysis of data for sale purchases table, and we built company sales table, and it was all done using Copilot and percentage code and the text so that we get the adequate code, and then percentage fix to fix them. So this is how Copilot for data engineering were used. And we also were able to build a machine learning model so that we can predict the mortgage rates for the next 3 quarters. So this is what we had for data engineering. Now we can probably jump to the next part. Second part, which we are going to cover, is Copilot for Power BI. If I go to this part, go to Power BI. So what we did was before that, so if I go here to our lakehouse, if I go to our lakehouse, we selected new semantic model, gave the name of that model and selected the table. So we selected companies, company sales and economic data table to be used for Power BI. So if I go to my workspace, so this is revenue and product category comparison report that we have built. So again, like if you see here, we have the Copilot prompt here. When we click there, it gives us like it's saying create a brutalist summary visuals, but before like initially it gives like, okay, what is like suggest the insights from this data and something like that. So now we use this. So this first one, revenue and product category comparison. So this is created by Copilot completely, like based on the prompt, we just click there and gave us this. Now it looks pretty good. Like if you see, it says company name and all of them. So if you see, it says quarter wise and like sum of revenue. So if you see the overall part, so office supplies in Q1 2021 was the maximum major thing, like maximum selling. So if I click on this company, so it shows here office supplies here, then it selects it. So it's a pretty good chart. If I move to the company, if you see this changes as well. And now if you see average of revenue by year and company name, so this is again good part. And if you see, this is the breakdown of each quarter and which company had how much revenue. So this is the revenue and product category comparison. Now, if I look at, so basically, I wanted to generate a company performance analysis. So therefore, this was done. So I gave the prompt to Power BI Copilot to say how we can do company performance analysis. And then this came up, and this was pretty good. If you see, so we are seeing which employees in which company and what is the sum of revenue. So we know, okay, which company has made that. If I select this, so and also, okay, one more thing which I didn't show in the last. So we have filters at the top as well. So if I go up at the top and select only 2020, so now I have got data only for 2020. And if you see here, when I hover over it, so it says in quarter and Q3 2020, which company has which, how much revenue, then next company, then like that. So basically we can see which company, and there is color coding as well to identify which company. Then which was the top selling category. So we see home and kitchen was a top selling category. The next one was audio, then mobile devices. So this is again a pretty good chart. Now, if you see for home and kitchen, you see here, so sum of revenue for Adam Rice was this one. So it's again a good chart. Now, okay, let's move to the next. I forgot to show the filter, so I came back to this filter. So if you see company performance, we are saying all quarters, but if I just move to Q1, now what we see here is that in Q1, like if we see, okay, so Davis Group had the top. So now if you see, Davis Group was in two locations, and in Q1 it was revenue was this much, and then it came down to this. Then we are seeing what is the location and what was the highlighted revenue. Then we are also seeing like what was the revenue by product category for this. So this is again the company performance that we can analyze based for each quarter. And we have 7 quarters of data. And we also can see like if you see some by company type. So around 60% of the data, oh sorry, around 60% of the revenue is from the private companies. Then non-profit is around 20%. So again, these two are the reports that were generated in Power BI, and they were generated using Copilot. So, okay, we have talked about Copilot for data engineering. Then we talked about Copilot for Power BI. Pretty good features. Now, okay, let's continue with the last thing, Copilot for Data Factory. So again, I'll move back to my workspace. Now, if you see, what we did was we also integrated with the source control git, but there were many things that we were not able to commit, like these experiment was unsupported. So we were not able to basically check, and data flow was unsupported. Then we have certain things there, but Lakehouse was checked in as this, but not this. So we will continue to check what was the difference, but there were a few things that were not checked in to GitHub. So what we did was, but first I will walk you to the Copilot. So let's jump into the Copilot part. So, okay, this is the one. Okay, so to use Copilot for Data Factory, we have to go to Dataflow Gen 2. So what we are doing here is, so we just want to test how Copilot for Data Factory works. Like it can be used for multiple things, like adding new columns, transforming the existing columns. So basically what we added your quarter and year before in Excel directly based on the date, we should have tried to use it with Copilot. But for this demonstration, what we are doing is we're taking the company table, then we copied this table. Now, once we copied this table as company sales upload, so we asked Copilot to remove the quarter column. So Copilot deleted that column and added the coded remove column. And then we added SQL Server as the data destination. So we had this SQL Server running in Azure. So this is where we saved that information. Now, if I go back, yeah. So once we did that, we published this. The moment it was published, we were able to see our data in SQL Server. So basically with the data factory, what we have done is we have taken a table, created a copy of it, then removed a column with the help of a data factory Copilot, and then uploaded this table to what we say, SQL Server in Copilot. So basically now we have demonstrated how to use Copilot for data engineering, Copilot for Power BI, and Copilot for Data Factory. So, and also like we have saved this notebook in an HTML format in our GitHub repository so that like without running the code also, if someone wants to see what things are there, so they can see. Also, I've added a document showing like all the steps. So basically a Word document is added to the GitHub repository to show all the steps, okay, what we did and everything. Now, if we see here, so what I was talking about our workspaces, the workspaces committed this notebook for this one to Azure DevOps, then to Economic Lakehouse and Revenue and Product category. So what we did was what it sent to DevOps, we downloaded that, as well as we have added this Power BI report as a PDF format and these notebooks separately as well, along with the Word document showing all the steps as part of the submission. Hope things were clear to you. And it was great working on Copilot for Fabric, and we will continue to explore more like for future projects, and it becomes a good use case for us. Thank you very much. And it was a good learning experience.